All right, we are back, guys. I'm sorry about what you guys just saw. As I said, my Wi-Fi was acting up, but I've gotten it fixed and everything seems to be running smoothly now, on my end at least. Hopefully it's running smooth for you guys also. But as I was trying to say when the stream was acting up last time, I just got back from seeing Top Gun Maverick. Black Dragon says much better, by the way. Perfect. And I was actually talking with Crit about this a little bit ago, as I was riding home, where I agree with everything that everyone was saying about not only this being an amazing movie, but believe it or not, actually better than the original movie. Now, not better by much for me, because I love the original movie, but this is more than a worthy successor to the first one. Wouldn't you say, Crits?
Yes.
All right. And hello again to ActionCom. Welcome back. So, as I was describing, because I had kind of started describing the movie when things went south for us, ActionCom says it was a great movie. It definitely captured the spirit of the originals and gave us some great visuals. Yes, it did. And by the way, hello to Black Dragon. What's up, man?
Tired and hot.
I hear you on that one.
No, being it's a short week for us because we had Monday off.
Mm-hmm.
There, we're trying to make up. I built over 90 tires today in 100+ degree heat.
Oh, I see. Okay. So you're basically trying to get 5 days work done in 4.
No, we only work 4 days. We work Monday through Thursday, 4:30 in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, so 4 days work in 3?
Yep.
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm one. We work about 11-hour days for 4 days. The upside to that is we get a 3-day weekend every weekend.
of course.
Of course, with the 4th of July, we had a 4-day weekend, and like I said, we're trying to make up, you know, having Monday off, and it's just by the end of the day, I was spent. I mean, I had no energy left.
I understand. Well,
Because since basically since COVID hit, we've been shorthanded anyway. I mean, right now, we're working 4 people in what should take about 8 to 9. I'm the only builder they've got.
I gotcha.
I mean, I'm sitting around now, and not to give a. Oh, trust me, I have a refrigerator full of Mountain Dew at work. Anybody that knows me knows that's all I drink.
Mountain Dew actually puts me to sleep.
Well, see, Mountain Dew in heat actually is bad for you.
Oh yeah. I am well aware of that being
You know,
from Mario.
I've got 4 bottles of regular Mountain Dew, a bottle of Major Melon, a bottle of Frostbite, and a bottle of Code Red in the work refrigerator in our break room, right along with 2 bottles of just straight water and 3 bottles of Powerade.
Right.
And I keep that stock. In the winter, I'll bring it, day to day because I don't drink it ice cold in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer, I keep that refrigerator stocked with that particular mix.
Okay.
And it's
Fair
just,
enough.
like I said, it's just, oh, I
Actually,
mean, I
Comp says, and that
literally,
just gets you through the first hour.
yeah, pretty much.
Right. Well, let's
I've
get
been
back on.
drinking Mountain Dew at roughly the rate of 1 can an hour for the past 40 years.
Wow. That is incredible. But anyways, let's go ahead and get back on topic and get talking about Top Gun Maverick. So Obviously, you guys weren't here when I started the last stream, so let's do our usual thing and we'll go around the horn and just let everyone talk about their overall thoughts on this movie. And Black Dragon, you can go first.
Well, I've made it clear in other streams when I don't, because of my particular situation, I don't have free money.
Mm-hmm.
But this one was one that I made sure I wanted, because this movie actually was ready for release about a year and a half ago.
Really?
Yes, and Tom Cruise said, no, don't release it until we come off of these lockdowns because this particular movie needs to be experienced in a large open theater, not on a streaming service.
And boy, was he right about that.
Yes, he was. He knew what he was talking about. So, like I said, this movie's been done for a while, but they waited until people started going back to theaters to release it to theaters, and it was well worth the wait.
Yes, it absolutely was. And I'll
Because
say this too.
I'm one of those that say yes, it was better than the. They're both great. I love both of them. They both have their good points,
Mm-hmm.
but with the situation, you have to see both. They did a very good job of in the casting of this movie,
Yes.
without trying to give spoilers. The Miles Tiller character could not have been portrayed by a better actor. You'd have
Oh,
thought
yes.
he was exactly who he said he was, both in
Mm-hmm.
attitude, in mannerisms, and looks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. 100%. Crit, your thoughts?
This is an amazing film. Really, uh, last few years there's not been a lot of good outputs. I feel like sequels are rushed. Star Wars is rushed, and it's kind of like when's something new gonna come out? And something old became new when we got a new Top Gun. Now, Tom Cruise is to me one of the best working actors in Hollywood right now. He's 60 and he's still pumping out movies. And um,
Mm-hmm.
Mission Impossible is a great series, but this was to me his crowning achievement of the last decade. I don't. I was a loss at words when I saw it in the cinema because my dad wasn't really interested in the original Top Gun because that was more of a romantic comedy or not. It was kind of a romance film with the pilots in the background. It this is a pilot movie
With
with
romance in the background.
romance in the
Yes.
background and fathership and um, to me this is I was speechless and yeah I've when that scene with who came when he's on the computer
Yeah.
I cried I started tearing up so
Yeah.
and knowing that he's like that in real life
Yes.
and the fact that they gave him a part in the movie anyway
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Because honestly, this movie would have felt incomplete without him.
And I think if they said that if he was dead, his it was so impactful. This whole movie is impactful, and I would even say it's better than Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think it's better than Ghostbusters Afterlife. Um,
I could see that.
Ghostbusters Afterlife, as great as that was, really all the love for it came at the last
10 or
10
so
You're right.
minutes.
Yeah, you're right. You're
yeah.
right. But
This is
it's Ghostbusters Afterlife and Top Gun are
Mm-hmm.
what's giving me hope that we're coming out of this quote unquote woke funk.
I don't think so. We're getting stuff like Marvel needs to
We're
change.
still, well, yes, we're still
I
getting
think
bad movies.
I think we're getting the glimpse of the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
We don't see the light fully yet.
There was nothing. There was female pilots, but there's always been female pilots, and the thing is, it wasn't in your face. You loved it. You there was no,
I thought
there was
Phoenix
no
was a
woke.
great character.
No, she's great. There was no wokeness whatsoever. Why can't we get
Exactly.
wokeness? Why do we get? You just why do?
I think that I think Crit, this clip from an earlier speech that you gave says it best.
Hey, I can be. I can sound like Cash Money. Did you know that?
Do it.
Let's hear it.
Oh my god. No. They put woke stuff. They put woke stuff in my Star Wars.
Yeah, basically. It remains to be seen if other. I will say that Paramount is, to me, the only studio with a brain. They did 2 films, Sonic and Top Gun, really good. Universal is doing okay. They're still pumping out dumb stuff like Jurassic World, where it's just dino mayhem and ridiculous stuff. And then biggest problem, of course, is the moneymaker, Disney. I think if Avatar 2 is like this film, maybe. Of course, Marvel is dead on arrival, but this is, to me, is the template that all movies should follow. Just stop with this nonsense. Just stop with this, follow the wings of Top Gun Maverick, and you're going to get a successful Hollywood.
Yes. And also, and this is kind of dovetailing both what you said and what I said earlier in the last stream, probably the last thing I said before I had to end it. This movie opens, of all things, with a video message directly from Tom Cruise saying, "Thank you for coming to see this movie. We put everything that we have into this movie, and we made it for you guys." How many studios or movies do you see opening with a video like that?
A lot. I think this was a lot. There's a lot of. They do that a lot. It's not normal. But yeah, that opening sequence, as soon as you hear the dun dun dun, dun and I saw this in IMAX, so the synthesizer shook my seat. I'm like, oh no, is this exactly how it opens in the first movie? And it does. It does. The same music.
But it's a modern version.
It's a modern version, and it works. It gets you like, yes, this is Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me so excited. I love hearing saying the same text, how it was in the original movie. It's just so good. It's just so good. And the sound design, and if I would have recommended anyone that saw this, you should have saw it when it first came out in the IMAX, because this IMAX made it feel like you were actually in the jet most of the time because of the sounds. It was just really impactful.
Right. Which, unfortunately, there is not an IMAX theater anywhere near me, so I was kind of out of luck on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw it in a regular theater, but I was happy.
Oh, yes, I was happy too. ActionCom says the opening was the same, but this time they added handful of men and women to the opening notification of the school. You're right. You're right. They did add that. We got to see something new on the flight deck, a little cabin where crewmen can stand between the planes without getting hurt. You're exactly right. Oh, hold on. Before we go any further, I have to play this clip. This is a new clip I just made, and this is the official spoiler warning clip for the Fandomology. Check this out. So anytime we talk spoilers of anything, that clip will be played. So with that, as I said, as we've already said, we open on pretty much the same sequence of jets taking off and landing on an aircraft carrier while Kenny Loggins' Highway to the Danger Zone plays in the background. And it's pretty much the same as what it was in the first version, except it's more modern now. They're using modern planes, obviously a modern carrier. As ActionCom said, we see a little cabin where crewmen can stand between the planes, and it's just it's the exact thing to get you back in the mood to see some awesome fighter jet action. And by the way, hello to Derpy Gaming, who says spoiler alert, yes. And hello to Godzillionaire, who says Danger Zone, yes. And hello also to Green Lantern, who says this is a very well-made movie. Yes, it is. But here's the thing, though. Unlike the first movie, where all that action of fighter pilots taking off and landing on the aircraft carrier, where this time we don't stay on that carrier very long. We go to the Mojave Desert, and we see Maverick, and he's just hanging out in his own private little hangar, and he's working on a little single prop plane just by himself. He sees what
Mustang.
Say again?
It was a P-51 Mustang.
A P-51 Mustang.
And that,
I feel like I'm supposed to know that.
It's It's an old warplane. It's the old prop warplane. But the thing about it is, that P-51 Mustang actually belongs to Tom Cruise.
Really?
That's his personal plane.
Oh, wow. That is incredible.
Yeah, there's a lot of the producer of the original and this one loves Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
And you'll find there's a green Lamborghini behind that plane in the shop that Tom Cruise is working on.
I missed that.
Producer. And the one at the end that Penny drives also belongs to the producer.
That I did notice. That's a Porsche.
Or that's right, Porsche, not Lamborghini. Porsche.
So anyways, though, Maverick eventually sees what time it is and gets ready to go in for his job. And by the way, he does still have the same cool looking 80s style motorcycle that he had in the first movie. And he drives that in to his area of the base, only to find out from his friend that this experimental aircraft test that he had been working on is getting 86'd by the admiral that's in charge, Admiral Kane, because Admiral Kane is all about pushing unmanned aircraft, and he does not see a place anymore for traditional pilots and flying their fighters. But Maverick, being who he is, decides, you know what? Let's just show him anyways. Their original goal was to push this experimental aircraft that looks a lot, by the way, like the SR-71 Blackbird, which, if you get a chance to go to the Udvar Hazy Air and Space Museum here in Virginia, you'll see one of those. It is really impressive. ActionCom says what's interesting is that the movie starts with the theme that Maverick's world is about to come to an end. And that theme continues throughout the whole movie. An admiral played by Ed Harris, nicknamed the Drone Ranger, is spearheading America's conversions to drones and missile warfare. This means the future will not need hotshot pilots. That includes Maverick. But that is true. But Maverick is not going to go down. Well, he's not going to retire quietly. We'll say it that way. So like I said, he decides to go through with the test anyways. And even though originally they were only going to push this aircraft to Mach 9, he decides to go to Mach 10. And so he takes off in this aircraft against the authorization of the admiral, and pretty much all the admiral can do is watch. And eventually he just barely makes it to Mach 10 and everyone's happy. But then Maverick goes against the wishes of his friend Hondo, who, by the way, for those that recognize Navy rank, he's a warrant officer, which is actually something semi-rare in the military as a warrant officer. He actually pushes it to almost to Mach 10.5. I think he goes to about 10.2, 10.3, but he can't push it further than that because the aircraft then starts to really overheat and he has to eject out, and the aircraft ends up blowing up in the sky. By the way, hello to Phil McCracken, who says, I thought this was a Skyrim stream. Justice for Skyrim. There will be a Skyrim stream very soon, Phil. Don't worry.
When Maverick takes off in the experimental plane and flies over the Admiral, you know what that's supposed to be, don't you?
That's supposed to be a callback to when he buzzes the tower against orders.
Yep, that's exactly what that was.
And by the way, seeing the shockwave of when he takes that thing off so close above the Admiral's head, and the shockwave makes his vehicle bounce, and the guard shack's roof bounce out of place. Like, you see a lot of Navy security forces in the first act of this movie, which is what I did in the Navy. In fact, part of my time in the Navy was spent actually working with the U.S. Air Force, attached to them temporarily, and we would guard the flight line. And I couldn't help but think, imagine if that was me standing there, armed up with my M4, and all of a sudden this admiral's about to come onto my post, but suddenly in comes this one experimental jet just buzzing right over us and pretty much causes a minor earthquake in the process. You're like, oh no, what's about to happen now? I'm sure you know the feeling too, right, Black Dragon?
Oh, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, ActionCom says a lot here. He says, actually, air combat does not need dogfighting when your missile can reach targets over the horizon. When the Shah of Iran was overthrown, all his ace military pilots were killed in the Iran uprising. Later, when the war between Iran and Iraq broke out, the Iraqis had problems. Their airplanes were blowing up the minute they got off the ground. They found out why. The Iranians were armed with American-made F-16s with long-range rockets. They were piloted by mediocre pilots, but the computer systems on the F-16s were so advanced they just used missiles. So who needs Maverick in this new age of warfare? That is impressive. And by the way, hello to John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. By the way, did you know that his name is my name too? And every time I go out, the people always shout, "There goes John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt." But anyways, the Admiral, who again is played by Ed Harris, calls in Maverick and basically has a very similar conversation as that one bald guy who was the captain in the first one, basically saying, "Look, you shouldn't have been up there doing that. But unfortunately, for me, I can't really give you the justice you deserve for disobeying orders like this. You are getting sent back to Top Gun to teach." And ActionCom says it right. Just when he's about to be busted, he's got orders to report to Top Gun. That's kind of the thing with this movie, is you notice that it's like poetry. It rhymes. It mirrors the story beats of the first movie, right?
Yes.
So we go back to Top Gun, and we see some shots of Maverick sort of reconnecting with his old stomping grounds. We see a very nice shot, by the way, of him walking through the quarterdeck of Top Gun headquarters. And he's looking at all the plaques and displays, and he notices that a certain Admiral Tom Kazansky, aka Iceman, is in charge of the Pacific Fleet. And in fact, ActionCom says it here. We learned that Ice has moved on in his career and has become his benefactor and prevented him from being dismissed. Now, surely all we're going to see of Iceman is a picture of him in his uniform. Surely we're not going to actually see Val Kilmer in action, right? But anyways, though, ActionCom also points this out, too. The Top Gun school has moved. Mm-hmm. It's no longer in Miramar. No, it's in San Diego.
Yeah, is that where it moved? I don't remember where it moved to. I know it was about 10, 12 years ago.
I mean, that's what the subtitle said in the movie, San Diego, Fightertown, USA. But basically, Maverick has been brought here by the two admirals in charge of Top Gun to basically teach a class of already graduated Top Gun graduates to do this one specific mission where they have to hit this one target of an unsanctioned, as ActionCom says it, an unsanctioned uranium enrichment facility that's located in a mountain range that is not easy to get to. And pretty much their target is between these two mountains in this big, like, natural bowl. And he basically needs to teach them how to fly like him. And of course, at first, Maverick is all down with this until he sees the people that he's going to be teaching, and one of them he immediately recognizes. Now, this guy is Lieutenant Bradshaw, call sign Rooster, the son of Lieutenant Bradshaw, call sign Goose, from the first movie, the one that was Maverick's Rio, the one that unfortunately passed away when they ejected during that training exercise against Viper and Jester. Because in the first movie, Goose, as he was ejecting, unfortunately contacted the roof of the plane, and because of the force he was coming out, that ended up killing him. And
actually, that's actually happened in naval exercises.
I can only imagine.
That's actually based on a true life event. In the cockpit of the F-14, you see it in the movie. You see Goose grab the ejection handles.
Mm-hmm.
What he was supposed to do first is down next to the seat is a lever to eject the cockpit before, or to basically kick off the cockpit before you eject, to prevent that kind of accident from happening.
Yeah. But anyways, though, it's important to know that in this movie, and in the last one, even though Maverick was cleared of all wrongdoing by the Navy, his son, Rooster, never forgave Maverick for what happened.
That's entirely true. It's not that he blamed Maverick for that. He's angry with Maverick for something else.
Right, which we'll talk about when we get there.
I didn't get the sense that he was angry with Maverick for the death of his dad in this movie.
I kind of did by the language that the admirals were using, when they say, you had been cleared of all wrongdoing back then in the Navy, but will he see it that way? And then Maverick has that look in his eyes like, probably not.
And like I said, that's the admirals. That's not Rooster. Like I said, just me personally, and I could be reading it wrong. Me personally did not see the animosity for that particular event coming from this guy.
Right. And Action Com, by the way, says that, and we see this multiple times in the movie, Maverick still carries Goose in his heart and even still says, "Talk to me, Goose."
Yeah, Maverick still carries guilt for himself.
Yeah. We see, like, in the very beginning of the movie, when he was working on his plane, he goes over to his toolbox, and there's all these pictures of Goose. In fact, in a lot of these pictures, Maverick himself isn't even in the picture. It's just a picture of Goose. Like a picture of Goose and Maverick, Goose and his wife, Goose and his kids. And it's just a little shrine to him.
This is where I think pretty much flashbacks work best, because we do see the whole sequence of Goose dying in flashback form. Compare that to, say, something like Boba Fett.
Here, I gotcha.
Like a panther. Yes.
By the way, hello to Fitz Crawford, who said this is a great film. You're absolutely right. Cobra Disney Jedi, by the way, says, "I'd join, but my headache is strong. But Maverick was awesome." Yes, it was. But in all seriousness, Cobra Disney Jedi, take whatever you need to get rid of that headache, get some sleep, and you focus on recovering. He also says Rooster was a great character. He definitely loved his dad. Yes, he did.
Yep. The Admiral's daughter, we finally meet her, Jennifer Connelly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She was mentioned in the first film, but we never saw her. So
yeah, that is true.
So yeah, we finally get to see Penny Benjamin, which I thought was it was a good alternative to Kelly McGinnis. Kelly McGinnis, who she looks very different nowadays.
Yeah, I would say better.
I was going to say, I'll take Jennifer Connelly over Kelly McGinnis. 7 days a week and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I love Jennifer Connelly.
She's one of those women that just seem to get better looking with age.
Mm-hmm. You should have saw her in Alita Battle Angel.
I did.
Yeah, the part where she's in the apartment. Yep. Yeah.
So anyways, though, continuing on, Maverick does end up going to the bar, and he meets up with Penny Benjamin, the Admiral's daughter that was mentioned in the first movie, and they reconnect. And of course, the bar is starting to get busy, and there is a set of rules that is jokingly enforced for her bar. I don't remember what the first two were, but the third one was don't keep your phone on the bar. And if you break one of those rules, she rings a bell, which means that you have to buy a round for the entire establishment. So Maverick
military bars have those types of silly. People think of them as silly rules.
Mm-hmm.
It's a game, is basically what it is, and most military bars do have them, such as an officer walking in with his cover on.
Yeah, which, funny enough, except for a certain scene, which was a very powerful scene, which we'll get to, none of the officers, especially the admirals, wore covers. And I understand that part of that is because they're on the flight line and you can't wear your cover on a flight line. But on the beach, why wasn't he wearing a cover there?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, that just...
Was it a military beach?
It had to have been. It was on base.
Was it?
And Cobra Disney Jedi, while you're looking at that, says, did you notice the bar name? Yes, the bar name was the Hard Deck, which, reminding everyone, the Hard Deck is, in the training situation at least, the altitude that you cannot go below. Basically simulating it, the Hard Deck is essentially the ground. You cannot go below the Hard Deck. So, as the bar gets more and more busy, all of the Top Gun students start entering. And this is where we meet all of the different people, which ActionCom was kind enough to list here. We meet Maverick students, such as Phoenix, Fanboy, Bob, yes, that's really his call sign, Cyclone, Hangman, or as I call him, Iceman 2.0, Payback, Coyote, Fritz, Yale, Harvard, Omaha, and Halo.
I'm going to disagree with that one. Cyclone was the Admiral.
Yeah, Cyclone was the Admiral.
Cyclone and Warlock were the two Admirals.
Yes.
Not the student. Now, Warlock, the feeling that you got between Warlock, which was the 2-star Admiral, who was backing Maverick, you get the feeling that he used to be one of his students.
Warlock and Bob, I think, got transferred too.
I think so.
They were in the beginning with the Dark Star.
Yeah. And of course, Rooster is also part of this group. And of course, Hangman, as I said, Hangman is pretty much the next generation version of Iceman.
Yes.
He's just super cocky and knows how to get under everyone's skin.
Good, and he knows he's good.
Yes. He even outright says that in the first scene we meet him in. But the point of this whole scene is Rooster finds a piano in the bar, starts playing it, and then starts singing and leading his fellow students in singing Goodness Gracious Great Balls of Fire.
But
now, by this point, Maverick had gotten thrown out of the bar for not being able to pay his bar tab, but he hears them singing that. He looks in the window, seeing Rooster play that piano, and it flashes back to that scene of him and Goose.
And if you watch Penny, she knows something's wrong.
Yeah.
But that's the one problem I had with this movie. Yes, it was great. Rooster came in the Hawaiian shirt like Goose was wearing. He played the piano like Goose was wearing. All the other pilots were in uniform.
Mm-hmm.
If they were in civilian clothes, I could forgive it. But that was, like I said, you're getting transferred back to Top Gun for something. Everybody's showing up in uniform, except Rooster shows up in his shirt.
And you go back to the first movie, everyone, including Maverick, is in uniform during the "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" scene.
Exactly. So that's the one problem I had with this movie.
Right. And I can see where you're coming from with that. Personally, I'm willing to overlook it.
Like I said, that's just a nitpick.
Yeah. Cobra Disney Jedi, by the way, mentioned they lowered the hard deck level in Maverick. Yes, they did.
1,000 feet.
And ActionCom, I guess, responding to what we were saying about how Hangman is good and knows he's good, he says, but Hangman lacks something. He starts fights, and that's not the only thing that he is lacking. He tends to leave his wingman behind. That's why he gets the That's why he got the call sign of Hangman.
Now, another thing that you might or might not know is before they started filming this, all the actors playing the pilots got to pick their own call sign.
Really?
Yes. It wasn't what was in the script. The actor, they told the actors, you're going to play a pilot, you're going to have a call sign, you pick out what you want to be called.
That is actually really cool and makes the fact that one of them has the call sign of Bob all the more hilarious.
It was, I got wrong. It wasn't Warlock. It was Hondo. That was Maverick's buddy from the Dark Star. It was Hondo.
Yeah, Hondo was the basically the chief mechanic.
Yes. Also, I just want to say this real quick. Phoenix, she's the lady pilot, right?
Yes.
Did she remind anyone else of Vasquez from Aliens?
Yeah.
No. I can see where you get that, but she was a more likable character than Vasquez was.
I don't agree.
When I say that, I mean it from the standpoint of she's clearly a woman, and compared to Vasquez, looks more like a woman. But she's not in it. Basically, she's not using the fact that she's a woman as any sort of clout. She just wants to be part of the guys.
She wants to be a pilot.
Yes. And that's what I mean when I say that.
Vasquez is more likable than Phoenix. Vasquez took down a whole battalion of aliens by herself until she got cornered in the vents. So sorry, can't compare.
There were 2 female pilots in that group. Phoenix was one of them. Halo was the other.
I didn't notice Halo.
She's the Oriental. She was played by Kara Wang. Lieutenant Carly Bassett was the character's name. That was Halo. You see her, when he's announced it, you see her more at the end. She's kind of flashed in and out. But at the end, when Maverick is picking out his team for the final strike when they're on the aircraft carrier, she's the one standing behind Rooster.
Okay. So anyways, and Cobra Disney Jedi says, I wouldn't mind being protected by Phoenix. I'm sure you're not the only one. But anyways, though, the next day is their first day of class. And, of course, the admirals introduce Maverick. And I like what Action Comm says here. He starts his class by throwing away the flight book.
Yep.
Justifying it by saying, listen, everything that's in this book, not only do you know it by heart, but the enemy knows it by heart too. Because I believe they mention that not only do they use the same planes, but they also use more advanced planes. Is that right?
Yeah, the 5th gen planes.
Yep. He says they need to teach his skills as a test pilot to a group of naval aviators who need them for a particular mission. Yes. And so the first lesson that Maverick does with them is pretty much the same as his first mission when he was actually attending Top Gun, that first time he took on Jester. So basically, all of the pilots go up at once with Maverick. It's all of them versus Maverick, and their mission is to shoot him down before he shoots them down. And of course, they make a little wager that if he shoots them down, they owe him some push-ups. And of course, Action Comm says that the mission will push their planes beyond their limits as well as their bodies, which Maverick has already trained for. But it's very clear, though, that there is some tension between Maverick and Rooster. And as I said, I first thought it was because Rooster was angry at his dad was angry at Maverick for getting his dad killed.
Yeah, that's what it initially.
Yeah, that's...
As the story progresses, that's why I said, I never actually saw it as he held him in contempt for that. He's
Right.
going to be angry that his dad's dead, period.
Mm-hmm.
But
anyways,
just as devastated as Rooster was.
Yes. ActionCom says he first teaches them low altitude flying because they spent too much time in the high altitudes. That's true, but that's after this lesson, where basically, as I said, it's all of them versus him, and they have to work together to shoot him down before he shoots them down. And of course, if he shoots any one of them down, they owe push-ups. And as I said, there's automatically tension between him and Rooster. It's not clear 100% why yet, but it's made very clear that up in the air, Rooster basically wants to shoot down Maverick in the same way that Maverick may have wanted to shoot down, say, Viper in the first movie, but it's way, way, way more personal this time.
Yes. I loved one of my favorite parts was the antagonizing that Hondo did. Because he shoots down Rooster and Rooster does the push-ups. And all the other pilots come out taking selfies and making fun of him, and then they get shot down, and you've got Hondo there going, yeah, it was all fun and games when you were doing those selfies, wasn't it?
Yeah, and stuff like that, and the way that he was counting cadence for those push-ups, again, it just took me right back into being there. But anyways, though, there's another mission. This might have even been the same day, where actually, let me backtrack. The first time that Rooster gets shot down by Maverick, Rooster is tricked into going below the hard deck, which was 5,000 feet, by Maverick. Basically, Maverick knew that Rooster was going to be all over him. So he used that to his advantage, led him below the hard deck, and then as Rooster realized, oh crap, I'm below the hard deck, I better pull up, he used that to his advantage, which left him vulnerable to Maverick to get him. But the second time they face off against each other, we get that same shot from the first movie where here's Rooster's jet, here comes Maverick, oh crap, he's upside down, same thing, but this time they don't just stay there, they start spiraling around each other, still staying like this, but they're both just spiraling down, and it's a test of willpower. Basically, who's going to break off first? And neither of them are breaking off until literally the last minute. ActionCom says it's called the Cobra maneuver. As far as aerial acrobatics, that was amazing. From a story perspective, it was perfect. What do you guys think?
Filming, they used Blue Angels pilots for that.
Yeah?
Because that's actually part of their show.
Yeah, I've never seen the Blue Angels, but I believe you. But that also makes me wonder, given what Tom Cruise said, where this was real fighter jets, real G-forces, I wonder if any of this was actually, if any of the actors themselves were actually doing the flying.
Yes, they were. That was one thing that Tom Cruise and Miles Tiller did an interview about the movie. Tom Cruise actually set up so that every one of these pilots would actually fly these jets and take them, not take them to their limits, but take them to the point where it would make the actors sick. So that when they actually film these sequences, you notice, like when Tom Cruise does the maneuver,
mm-hmm.
and when they're in the class after he's been dismissed, and he goes into the test range and does the maneuver, all the heavy breathing he does and the facial expressions.
That's real.
It's real because they trained that way specifically so it would be real in the movie. They
Which is
got to fly
part
these jets. The actors did.
which is part of what Tom. So basically, in the movie's opening shot, where it's Tom Cruise talking, where he said, "This is real jets, real G forces. We put our all into this movie." He meant it.
Mm-hmm. They came up with a special camera design, a camera setup. There were 5 or 6 cameras set up in the front of the cockpit to film these actors while they were in these jets, which was something that had never been done before because these actors are flying and having to do their own makeup, having to start and stop these cameras for the filming.
Which, yeah, that is true. That is, if that's not a labor of love, I don't know what is. But anyways, though, unfortunately, because both of them went below the hard deck, especially Maverick is the one that gets in trouble, and he is pulled into the Admiral's office, and basically the same conversation that he has with Viper in the first one, where he and Goose get in trouble, happens here, but it's even more severe because it's made very clear. In fact, it was already made very clear that this is pretty much Maverick's last hurrah as a pilot in the Navy. They said when he took this job, if you do not take this job, you will never fly again for the Navy. And the only reason you're here is because our boss basically wanted you here, who of course is Iceman.
And you see the connection with them. If you look at the text that Maverick sends back and forth with Iceman, it's not Admiral Kaczynski, it's not Iceman, it's not Tom, it's Ice. There's that personal connection that they've kept ever since the end of that first movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can tell he's been around because when he goes to visit him and his wife's telling him what's going on, he hugs her like you would, a family member.
Yes. Which, that scene, I knew that Val Kilmer was going to be in this movie.
Yeah.
And I knew something. I didn't know what exactly, but I knew that something had gone wrong with Val Kilmer recently. And then to see how they use him in this movie. Because for those that don't know, Val Kilmer was diagnosed with throat cancer, I believe back in 2015. And in the process of that treatment for that throat cancer, he completely lost his voice. So he was rendered barely able to talk at all. But of course, they wanted to use him in this movie. So what did they do with the character of Iceman? Give him the same cancer and give him the same inability to speak. And so, and yeah, Cobra Jedi says it here. Love that they had Val Kilmer in the movie despite his real life health problems. So we get that scene where Maverick and Iceman reunite, and they're just sitting there. Well, first off, let me start to go where it's like Ice texts him saying, "I need to see you." And of course, Maverick, after a bad day of training, isn't
asking.
Feeling it. Yeah, he's like, "No, I'm not asking. I need to see you." And so he shows up at his house, and the first thing that Maverick does is he's greeted by Iceman's wife, who breaks the unfortunate news, quote, "It's back, and it's worse. Even talking has become painful." So that tells you right up front that this is the end, unfortunately, for Iceman. And so Maverick, of course, looks like he got hit by a Mack truck upon hearing that news. And as you said, Black Dragon, he hugs Iceman's wife as if he was family, because in essence, he is, just not by blood. But then we get the scene where...
left.
Yeah. But then we finally get the scene where Maverick and Iceman come face to face. And because of Iceman's condition, his real life condition with his throat cancer, Iceman had to, for the most part of this scene, talk by computer, which leads to this. He says, "I want to talk about work." And of course, Maverick tries to play it off, say, "Listen, man, forget about work for a moment. I'm here for you. What can I do for you?" And he just points even more forcefully. He's like, "I want to talk about work." And so Maverick's like, "Fine, okay." And the conversation ends up focusing on Rooster. And Maverick confides within Iceman that he's not sure whether or not Rooster is truly ready to even be here, let alone take on this mission. And of course, Iceman is basically being the wise old man here, saying, if he's not ready, then train him. And he also says maybe it's time to let go, as in let go of your guilt for what happened with Goose. But the absolute best part is when Iceman stands up from his chair, grabs Maverick by the shoulder, and just barely is able to speak. And he actually says that, look, man, he needs you. The Navy needs you. And that almost jerked tears from me. And then just as the cherry on top, Iceman looks at him kind of playfully. He's like, okay, one last time. Who's the better pilot, you or me?
Yeah, this was such a nice conversation. Let's not ruin it.
Exactly. Okay. Thoughts on this scene, guys?
Amazing.
It bring a tear to my eye.
Yes.
And
the problem Val Kilmer had and the effort it took him to actually speak in this.
That was the voice when he speaks. That's not his voice. That's an AI, because he can't ever have his voice back.
Actually, he can make sounds.
He can make sounds, but they reconstructed his voice through AI.
You're right.
So,
it still takes him a whole lot of effort to get that much out.
But the fact that he was even willing to try for this movie, as I said, I believe that this movie would be incomplete without Iceman in it in some way. And obviously, seeing that picture of him, that was nice enough. And you could have said that was a nice enough tribute to the character. But to actually have him here was absolutely amazing and just really set the movie. Because obviously, everyone comes for the plain stuff. But as far as like actual character moments, this to me is one of the best scenes in the movie. And unfortunately, Ice has been given the Goose sacrifice, because later on in the movie, after another training session where, of course, Maverick is, being a hard teacher for them all, but of course we get a volleyball scene, or a football scene on the beach, rather, same as the first movie. But the next big scene to talk about is, unfortunately, when Maverick gets the news that Iceman has passed away. Now, before this happens, we finally get the confrontation between Maverick and Rooster, where it finally comes out. Rooster basically straight up asks him, "Why did you pull my papers to get into the Naval Academy?" Because that's what he was really pissed off with Maverick about. Because in an earlier scene with Penny, Maverick confides in her that he had indeed pulled Rooster's papers for the Naval Academy.
An earlier scene or a later scene?
In an earlier scene, I believe.
Because I know he helps her take the boat to be repaired, and then it's like a scene later is when she basically invites him in.
Right.
And that's when they were having that discussion, but I thought it was after Iceman's death. Maybe I'm misremembering the timeline.
It's before, for sure. But anyways, Rooster calls him out on it. And earlier, Maverick had confided in Penny, "Listen, I did it because I did what I thought was best for him. I was trying to be the father that he lost."
You're also another part, because he tells Penny it was his mother didn't want him flying.
His mother didn't want him flying after what happened to Goose.
Does he know this? Well, why should he resent her too?
Yes.
I unfortunately gotta hop off. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, no problem, man.
I'm glad I could get my thoughts out. My score would be a 5 out of 5 masterpiece. So
100%.
And I'll see the rest of the stream later. I just gotta have dinner and stuff. So
I gotcha. If we're still going once you're done, man, feel free to come back.
All right. Thank you. See you, Black Dragon and Paul. Bye, chat. Bye.
But anyways, though, like I was saying, all of that ends up coming to a head between Maverick and Rooster. And Maverick admits, "I did it because I didn't think you were ready." Quote, "I didn't think you were ready not to..." Basically, he says, "You were ready. I didn't think you were ready to get your head out of the books," paraphrasing, "and actually do something. Because if you're up there and you think, if you're up there in the air and you think you're dead, don't think, just do."
And that comes back later hilariously.
It does a lot. But anyways, this argument gets interrupted by one of the admirals.
By Warlock.
Warlock, yes. Who gives Maverick the unfortunate news that Iceman has passed away. And then the next scene is his funeral, where everyone is involved. Of course, everyone is in their dress blues. And especially how Maverick acts in this. Like, that was genuine grief in Tom Cruise's face there. And certain aspects of the funeral ceremony, for example, Maverick taking off his own wings.
The only time I've ever seen that was during our funerals. I didn't realize pilots did that also.
Basically what happens is Maverick takes off his own flight badge, his little wings that he wears right here, sets it down on the casket, and then bangs his fist against it to drive the spiky bits into the wood of the casket, basically embedding it there forever.
And then we did it. I didn't know anybody else in the military did.
I didn't know it existed at all.
Oh, yes. SEALs do that for every death. You'll see, if you go to a Navy SEAL funeral, you will see a casket full of tridents.
I believe it. But anyways, though, another thing is that the funeral got a flyover. And I'm going to guess that the Blue Angels did that also?
That I'm not sure. That I can't speak to.
Okay. But like I said, if it was them, I'm not surprised. If it wasn't, I'd like to know who it was. But regardless, the whole scene was the absolute best send-off a character like that could have gotten. And in the immediate aftermath of this scene, Admiral Cyclone pulls in Maverick to his office and said, "Listen, I understand you're grieving, but from now on, I am in charge of their training." And basically, he was saying, "Listen, I'm sorry for your loss, but now Iceman is no longer here to protect your career.
Mm-hmm.
So you're grounded forever." And of course, Maverick tries to fight back, saying, "Listen, I'm the only one that can teach them how to do this mission." But of course, the Admiral wouldn't hear it. And of course, ActionCom says, "An admiral that shot down some planes. You bet they would honor that man." Oh yes. Oh yes. Because I can only imagine, of course, not knowing a thing about it. I only know the part of the Navy that I was in, which is lower enlisted Navy security. I can only imagine that perhaps not to the same degree as the SEALs are, but Navy pilots, that's also a pretty close-knit community too. Wouldn't you say, Black Dragon?
Yes.
So of course, they're going to be there showing as much honor and respect for their fallen comrade as they can.
Okay,
And
I just
showing a picture. So that is from a SEAL funeral, and that is all of the tridents that got stamped into the casket.
Correct.
Wow. And forgive me for asking this, but is this someone that you actually know?
I'm not going to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, getting back to the movie, Cyclone, for their training, set new parameters that are less risky on approach, but riskier on exit. And of course, Maverick wasn't happy about this. So after a pep talk from Penny, he takes an unauthorized flight in one of their F-18s and basically does the simulated mission himself, where originally he was under a time limit of, originally they were training under a time limit of 2 minutes 30 seconds. He sets a time limit for himself of 2 minutes 15 seconds and finishes it with 16 seconds to spare. And just as a side note, by the way, part of what we were talking about earlier with the G-forces, part of that, and where the G-forces are the worst, is immediately after they drop their payload on their target, they have to pretty much fly up vertically as fast as they can to scale this mountain. And they pull minimum 9 Gs to do it. And so you see just how that affects their body. You can see, I don't know how they simulate it, but they simulate the tunnel vision that starts to happen as you black out from all those Gs. In fact, earlier in the movie, they show one of the pilots actually going into G-lock. And G-lock, for those that aren't familiar, is when you are under so much G stress and you don't know how to control it, because they teach you a certain way to breathe and contract your muscles to control it, but you can't control it and you pretty much completely pass out. And there's a scene earlier in the movie of Maverick having to rescue someone that experienced G-lock.
Mm-hmm.
But because Maverick aced the training mission in the way that he did, Cyclone, as ActionCom says, reluctantly appoints Maverick as team leader. And Maverick, being a test pilot, already had the experience to shake off the impending G-lock. So Maverick now is leading the actual mission to take down this uranium bunker. And he is given a choice of what 3 pilots to take with him. He takes Phoenix and
Bob
as one of the wings. Let me pull the names up again. You had sent them, ActionCom. I know this much. I am bad with names.
The pilots he called for the...
So he calls Phoenix and Bob and Payback Fanboy. And as his direct ringman, he chooses Rooster, which is something that he did not want to do because basically he found himself effectively in a Kobayashi Maru type situation where if he doesn't pick Rooster for this mission, Rooster will resent him forever. And if he does, then he risks sending Rooster to his death. And either way, he runs the risk of losing Rooster forever. But ultimately, he does choose Rooster. So they all get into their fighters. And Hangman, by the way, is chosen as a reserve pilot. So he stays mostly on the hangar, on the flight deck for this. And
well, according to Cyclone, all the rest of the pilots were the backups on the deck.
Right.
But they focused on Hangman because he was, like I said, the other pilot, Halo, is kind of a background character.
Right.
You see her once in a while, but they don't focus on her. They focus more on Hangman. That's why, they show him on deck. But according to Cyclone, all the rest of you pilots will be back up on the deck.
Yes. So Maverick, Goose, Phoenix and Bob, and Payback and Fanboy, they make their approach. And at first, everything goes to plan. But one of Rooster's bad habits is that he tends to be a little bit too cautious. Mm-hmm. And he starts he and Payback and Fanboy start lagging behind and getting behind schedule. But eventually, Rooster comes to his senses and he picks up speed and gets back on schedule. We also get a really cool scene of the carrier shooting Tomahawk missiles to destroy the airbase that was near their target. And that was really cool seeing how they destroy it. And that will be important later. But they also noticed that there are 2 Gen 5 fighters that are in the air also. And they're on a intercept course with them on their way to the target, especially after...
Not initially.
Yeah, not initially, but after after the flight, after the runway of the airfield gets destroyed. Excuse me. After it gets destroyed. So they make it up the mountain and down in, they do the inverts to make it down. And, oh, by the way, hello to Jet Sparks. Thanks for joining. And Maverick nails his shot as planned. And Bob is able to get the laser pointer from their aircraft onto the target. And everything goes to plan. However, when Rooster and Fanboy and Payback make their approach, Fanboy's laser malfunctions and he's not able to get a good bead on it. So Rooster basically has to use the Force. It's pretty much the same thing as, Luke, you've switched off your targeting computer. What's going on? Except this time, there is indeed something wrong. But Rooster is able to make his shot too, and they begin the climb out, which again means they're pulling at minimum 9 Gs getting out of there. And like I said, that is intense on the body. Like, anyone that would really like to get a good view of what extreme G forces do to a body, look up centrifugal force training. The Navy really does this, and you will see people sitting in this little chamber, literally about as wide as the area around my desk, and about this much space too. And it's attached to an arm, and they spin it around this room really, really, really fast. And that's, it generates the G forces on a body. And there's a camera like fixated on their face, kind of like my webcam is. And you see them as they're going through, and their face is just smushing back like this. It is absolutely insane. And ActionCom says it's also called LRV training, Lunch Review Vehicle. Yes, because if you're not careful, bleh. And Cobra Disney Jedi says, this was fun. Got to take off for obvious reasons. Well, again, man, thank you for joining us, Cobra. And like I said, you focus on getting better with what you're doing right now.
Cobra Disney Jedi. And it's going to sound silly, but the best headache medicine I've ever found, I mean ever, comes in a green bottle just called headache medicine from your Dollar General store.
Mm-hmm.
I was redoing a trailer for a friend. I was, fixing the porch and the floors and whatnot. And one night I developed a migraine so bad, I was almost in tears.
Oh.
And he went out and picked up a bottle of this stuff. And within 30 minutes of me taking it, you'd have never known I had a headache.
I might have to try that at some point next time I get a headache. Usually when I get headaches, I just take some Tylenol and sleep them off. But I might try that.
Yeah, like I said, it was a Dollar General. It's a green bottle. It's just simply called headache or pain relief. Yeah, headache pain relief. Look for the green label.
ActionCom wonders what that stuff is again.
It's give me a second. Let's see if I still have it.
Anyways, while he goes to continue that, I'll continue telling the story where they make it out of basically the giant crater where the target is, but now because they're up so high, they've entered what they call Coffin Corner, where all of the surface-to-air missiles have locked onto them, and now they've got to get out of there. And it's a whole bunch of aerial acrobatics. Again, they are sending out flares to ward off the surface-to-air missiles. And we see this one moment where Rooster is out of flares, and he has another Sam right on his tail. And Maverick basically sacrifices himself by hovering right over Rooster, releasing his own flares so the Rooster is saved, but in the process, Maverick gets shot down. And it's meant to be this big moment where we all think that Maverick is dead. And I'll be honest, I genuinely thought Maverick was going to die in this movie. But it is revealed later, after Cyclone gives the call for everyone to come back, saying, quote, "There's nothing we can do to help Maverick right now." It's revealed that Maverick survived. He was able to eject and parachute out, and he's okay. But there is an attack helicopter that is right on him, and it's trying to gun him down while he's just running on the ground. And ActionCom says, this is where the movie goes for genius. We are going into new territory.
Mm-hmm.
Can't use the old movie. You're right. By the way, Black Dragon, did you find what you were looking for?
I had a picture of it that I sent to somebody else so they could find it, but I've removed it from my phone. It's a green bottle. It's called Headache Pain Relief, and it's at Dollar General.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Next time we have like $2 Generals in my town, I'll look for it.
Yeah, like I said, I'd never heard of it, because I always did the Tylenol thing too. But he gave me this, and 30 minutes later, I could have gone dancing. I don't dance.
Nice. But anyways, though, I don't know if you could hear what I was saying while you were looking for that, but we're at the scene where Maverick has just gotten shot down, and he's on foot trying to get away from the Hind. And
well, you also have to, what's an important part of this was the pilots requesting to go back after Maverick, and Cyclone basically telling them no, including Hangman, who's, hey, I need to go fly cover. No, you keep your butt on the deck.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's because he hated Maverick so much, or if he was actually trying to save the rest of the pilots.
I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and say it's the latter, where he is...
I'm going to say it's a mix of the two.
I could see where you're coming from with that.
I mean, because he was an adversary from the moment they met.
Yes, he was. But anyways, though, ActionCom says that he thinks it's the responsible decision. So, a whole bunch of mixed feelings on it.
Which is true.
So, Maverick, like I said, is getting gunned down by this Hind, and he's about to be taken out completely when the Hind gets shot down by Rooster, who went against orders. He was supposed to return to the ship, but he went against orders to rescue Maverick. But at the cost of him getting shot down himself by one of the SAMs. So Maverick has to rush to where he got shot down to find him. And he finds, of course, that Rooster also manages to safely eject, and he's okay. So now Maverick and Rooster are together, shot down behind enemy lines, and they have to figure out a way out of there.
That's I don't mean to interrupt, but another one of my favorite scenes right here, when Maverick's screaming at him, what were you thinking? You told me not to think, and then flips his arms up like, hey, I'm doing what you said, which when you look at it, when you look at that particular scene, tell me you cannot picture Goose standing in front of him.
100%. 100%. And again, I gotta shout out the guy that played Rooster here. Miles Tiller. Not only did he act the part, he looked the part.
Exactly. You would swear he was Anthony Edwards' son.
Yeah, it's uncanny. But anyways, so how do they figure out their plan of escape? They go to that destroyed airfield, because way earlier in the movie, they happen to know what's on that airfield. Because as they said, they have some F-18s, but they also have some F-14s, which is the very same fighter jet that Maverick and Goose flew in the first movie. And Jet Sparks is 100% right. He is a dead ringer for Goose. And this was 100% a super genius move for them to put Maverick in the F-14. I would say it was like Han Solo and Chewbacca reuniting with the Falcon in The Force Awakens, but 10 times better. So they steal one of these F-14s from the bad guys, and Maverick makes a very, very, very risky maneuver to get it taken off because they pretty much have no runway. All they have, as Rooster repeatedly points out, is a very small taxiway. But Maverick, being Maverick, manages to pull it off. And they're heading back for the ship, but those two Gen 5 fighters come up on them. And at first they try and pass it off because the F-14 has their same colors, but the Gen 5 fighters don't buy it. And so it turns into an old school dogfight. And by the way, hello to my friend Ian, the headless guitarist. We're going to be hanging out this coming Saturday. And we got to do another songwriting stream, man. We'll talk about that later on offline. But yeah, the dogfight happens, and we see more of just how awesome Maverick is, especially with him actually in his fighter, the F-14. And Goose is trying to fulfill the similar role that Rooster did. Sorry.
First that. You had to write it in reverse order.
Yes. But anyways, though, it's also made, though, very clear just how advanced these Gen 5 fighters are compared to the F-14, that they make mention multiple times that in this day and age, it's essentially a museum piece. And eventually Maverick runs out of his missiles and he has to switch to the guns, and seeing him use that was really cool.
Yes, it was a nice callback, and I pointed it out on other streams because other YouTubers have done the, hey, we've got the callbacks to the original movie, and they keep bringing up when Maverick says, too close for missiles, switching to guns like Iceman did.
Mm-hmm.
However, that's not what he said. His words in there were out of missiles, switching to guns.
Yes.
It's still a nice callback. It still conveys the same thing. But all these guys keep putting out, yeah, this is what he said. No, that's not what he said. But it is close enough.
It is. So, eventually, though, they manage to take down the two fighters, but there's a third that's pretty much coming right at them as if they were playing chicken. But that one ends up, and by this point, they are pretty well banged up, and they are almost forced to eject. So think about this. They are almost in the exact same situation. Maverick is almost in the exact same situation with Goose's son.
Mm-hmm.
Same situation that got Goose killed. But thankfully, they don't have to eject because in comes Hangman to save the day.
Rooster tries. He dealt with the ejection handle open. Did you catch what Maverick said after that?
Don't bother, essentially?
No. As they're flying up and the Gen 5 fighter is coming behind him, Maverick says, I'm sorry. And then there's a pause, and he says, I'm sorry, Goose.
Now that I think about it, yes, he did say that. And I want to say that right there is where he finally laid his demons to rest regarding what happened to Goose, wouldn't you say?
I would say Rooster did too.
Yeah. But like I said, Hangman comes in to save the day, and they manage to make it home safely, albeit it's a rather rough landing because they accidentally knocked off their front landing gear, and they don't have a tail hook.
Right.
So basically, the guys on the flight deck had to grab this giant net and basically net in their F-14 to make it in safely. But they do make it in safe. And
I think even Cyclone gained respect for Maverick at that time.
Oh, yes. We even see him give a nod of respect after that.
Yep.
And of course, it's very similar to the first movie where, you're still reckless, Maverick. You can fly with me anytime. Perhaps not those words.
No, but you get that between
Hangman
and Rooster.
And between Rooster and Maverick, especially.
Yeah. I'd say it was more important between Rooster and Hangman.
Yeah.
He does it to Maverick, but Maverick's at the end of his career, whereas Rooster and Hangman are at the beginning of theirs.
Right.
So they'll develop that same friendship that Maverick and Ice developed.
It's also worth mentioning that Maverick is an ace for shooting down 5 aircraft. You're right, because he had the 3 MiGs in the first movie, plus the 2 Gen 5 fighters here.
And it's Phoenix that points that out.
Yes, it is. So the movie ends back in that hangar where it started, where Maverick and now Rooster's joining him, working on that old World War II fighter jet. And along comes Penny to come and visit, and he takes her on a joyride in his plane and quite literally flies off into the sunset.
And that was an actual flight, and Jennifer Connelly did an interview. She's actually afraid of flying.
Really?
She had made the comment during her interview that she was afraid of flying, but when Tom Cruise took her in that plane, she kind of got over that fear, because I guess he is a real safe pilot. I've never flown with the man, so I can't say, but but that was an interview she did over this movie. Was that she literally had a fear of flying, and this is basically the first time she went up in a plane with somebody where it didn't bother her.
Well, that is amazing. And that is an amazing note also to end the recap of this story. So
you have to add one more thing.
Which was?
They do focus on that board again.
Yes. That's right. The board that has all the pictures of Goose, Rooster sees them. And
not just
pays his. He also showed there's also a picture of Rooster there too.
Yeah.
And we see that scene of Rooster paying his respects to his dad. By the way, Ian says so was the actor for Hangman, but he lied about it so that he could be in the movie, then admitted it after all the filming was done.
I missed that interview. I'd like to have seen that one.
That's funny. By the way, Ian, I didn't know you had seen this. You should have come on here and talked about it with us. But anyways, though, that is the end of the story. And as I said, it is an amazing story, a more than worthy follow-up to the first one.
Yes, it is.
In fact, I dare say the first one is made better by this movie.
I'll agree with that.
So, just real quick, talking about the characters. First off, Tom Cruise once again stepping into the flight suit as Maverick. It was as if he had never left. But obviously he's older. He played an older and somewhat more wise Maverick, and I think it worked out really well. And then Val Kilmer as Iceman, just what can I say that hasn't already been said? That guy literally fought so much physical adversity to be in that movie. And I dare say that every scene involving Iceman was the best scene in the movie as far as character moments.
Yes. I mean, I also like when Penny finally, invites him in and they're talking about Rooster and the daughter comes home.
And she's like, don't break her heart.
Yeah, no, she pushes him out the window so that the daughter won't see him, and he jumps down right in front of her. Just that look on his face of, "Uh-oh, I'm caught." And yes, the daughter, just don't break her heart again. But it was just the look on his face because he didn't expect to see her.
Yes. And then the new cast. Well, hold on. First off, hello to the Nerdporial who says, great movie. Val Kilmer really moved me. Him talking really surprised me. It surprised me too. Because here's the thing. I looked up in the middle of the movie, I'll be honest. I pulled out my phone and looked up, hey, what's going on with Val Kilmer? Immediately I had seen that.
Head.
Yeah. I was sitting at the back, so no one saw me.
Okay, fair enough. People that do that just irritate me. I mean, just if you can't put your phone away for 2 hours, don't come out to the movies and ruin it for everybody else.
To be fair, in my defense, what I was looking at had to do with the movie. But yeah, looking at seeing how Val Kilmer really, as I said, did have that throat cancer that actually did take away his voice. And the fact that they, number one, put that in the movie, but number two, the fact that he really did speak when it was probably hard for him to do so. It was just amazing.
Yep.
And by the way, Ian, Black Dragon here is not the person to go after as far as saying John Denver isn't country. That's Phil. You're going after the wrong guy on that one. And Nerdporial also mentions Tom Cruise said thank you to the audience. I felt likewise to Tom Cruise and the crew that made the film possible. This is how you do a follow-up to a legacy movie series. Too bad Hollywood won't learn from that. They may not learn it in the short term, but I think give it several years.
We're slowly coming out of it. We really are.
I believe we're seeing overall. I believe we're seeing the first glimpses of the light within the tunnel, of the light at the end of the tunnel.
When you look at new,
we're still going to have our Disneys. We're still going to have our Marvels. We're still going to have our Lucasfilms. We're still going to have our Kurtzmans.
Yeah, have all the woke stuff out there. But, it is encouraging when you get somebody like, Netflix. Now, I don't like all the stuff that's on Netflix, and I'm not going to get into that one.
Yeah.
When they put out a memo to their company that says, hey, this is the stuff that's making us money. If you don't like it, go find you another job.
Yeah.
Is encouraging that they're not catering to these loudmouths that are trying to push a narrative.
Yeah. It is very, very encouraging. Like I said, I believe we are seeing the first glimpses of the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, a light at the end of the tunnel very well could be a train.
Yeah.
There's always that hope. Now, talking about the new characters, we got to first talk about Rooster. As we already said, the Miles Tiller, who played him, was amazing, but the way he was written, too. Like, he had a legitimate reason for hating Maverick.
Yes.
And that was paid off in a very logical way. And by the end, the two of them are forced to work together, and they end up gaining a respect for each other again. And it was just a feel-good moment at the end when the two embraced.
Yes, that when Tom Cruise said thank you for saving my life, and Miles Tiller went, it's what my dad would have done. And he's absolutely right.
Yes, he is. Like I said, it's enough to make someone cry. So all the rest of the pilots, really nothing to say about them other than they're pilots, they're young, they're good at what they do. As I said, Hangman pretty much was Iceman 2.0 to me. Between the two, I think I like Iceman in the first movie a little bit more as far as that particular like school bully type role, where he's not really where he's not the bad guy, obviously, but he is a rival.
Right.
I think that was executed a little bit better with Iceman.
I'll agree with that because Hangman should have never brought up anything about Rooster's dad.
Yeah, that was a low blow.
That was uncalled for.
I think there was one character, though, that did end up that did unfortunately end up missing from this movie that I think would have been really cool to see if they had somehow, because I know he is still alive, if they had somehow brought back Tom Skerritt to at least do a cameo as Viper. Like, suppose
Viper was
scene
long retired by now.
True. But I'm sure he would have had some sort of contact with the people at Top Gun and certainly with Maverick.
Possibly. I can see that because at the end when they graduated and were getting sent off for the mission, Tom Skerritt looks at Tom Cruise and says, hey, when you're going to get your Rio when you get to your ship, and if you don't, give me a call. I'll fly with you, which shows the respect he had for Maverick.
Yeah. So imagine in the immediate aftermath of Maverick getting grounded permanently after Iceman's death, instead of him going to see Penny, he goes to see Viper. Imagine how that scene would have gone.
Yeah, that would have been nice. You're right.
ActionCom says, unfortunately, everyone in Maverick's world is gone, and his profession is coming to an end. Yeah, that is unfortunate because time catches up to all of us, and time doesn't stop for anyone or anything. So people get older, and technology advances more, and things that we thought would never go away quickly become obsolete.
Yep.
And that's represented the best by Admiral Kane in the very beginning, where he, obviously he has good reason to believe as he does, but he sees no point in actually having fighter pilots anymore. To him, it's all about unmanned stuff. And he brings up good points that unmanned drones basically can operate way more efficiently than any human and don't need time for food, drink, and rest. But at the same time, and I'm actually going to pull a line from the first Iron Man movie. Oh, actually, yeah, ActionCom also brings up the biggest plus to unmanned stuff: no lives lost.
Yeah.
That is true. But I'm going to pull a line from the first Iron Man movie where Rhodey is talking to that one random group of Air Force pilots where he's saying, I don't believe in unmanned technology. I believe that no computer can match the intuition and the intelligence of an actual flesh and blood human.
And that's true also.
So there's a balance there. It's like, how do we make both sides happy? But that ultimately is a discussion, a way more sophisticated discussion that I'm comfortable of getting into for another day. But that is pretty much all I can think of to talk about with this movie. Actually, no, there is one more thing. The actual piloting, the actual aerial acrobatics. I think, and this has to be due to the advanced technology, because they were working with F-14s back then that they said in the movie were not very maneuverable compared to what their enemy was flying. Fast forward now, they're using F-18s that are way more maneuverable, which leads to more impressive maneuvers, such as, for example, the Cobra maneuver. All of that stuff was amazing. And granted, I didn't see it in an IMAX, but I saw it on the biggest screen that I could access, and it was worth it visually. What sort of screen did you see it on, Black Dragon?
Standard movie screen.
Okay.
We don't have IMAX around here. Matter of fact, we really have a theater within like 30 miles of where I'm at.
I think the closest one to us is in Winchester, Virginia, like an hour and a half north of me. But I've legit only gone to see a movie in Winchester once, and it was a nice enough experience, but I'd rather just stick close to home and support my local theater.
That's it. You know, this to me, like I said, it's one that I looked forward to because I loved the first one. And being, an 8-year veteran of the U.S. Navy, I wanted to go see this. And like I said, I can't afford to go out, but I put aside, just to go see. This is the only movie I've seen. This is the only movie I've gone to theaters to see since the 4th Harry Potter movie.
Yeah.
And to me, it was well worth it.
I believe it. And by the way, Fritz Crawford randomly saying Krista Nova is quite a delight. Krista Nova has nothing to do with this channel. She's part of Geeks and Gamers.
And yes, she is.
And Phil has been to Winchester. He says it is a nice town, and it has a nice guitar store too that me and Ian had been to plenty. ActionCom says, I like watching women and girls' first reaction videos of Top Gun, particularly Goose's death scene. Watching them start to cry shows the power of filmmaking. I'm going to have to look this up because I'm not usually big on reaction videos, but something like that is interesting. And he also says, do you think this film can get that emotion? Oh, 100%. Especially the scene of Iceman's funeral. But anyways, hello, by the way, to Pacific 414. I think we're going to go ahead and call it for the night. So let me pull up, as usual, the list, and we will rank this thing.
Yes, this will definitely be a movie. When it hits DVD, Blu-ray, I will go and purchase.
Me too. Like, if they do any sort of, like, collector's edition, oh, yeah. So where am I putting this?
I'll put away the money now because next week my manager's going on vacation. So our hours are changing from 4:30 in the morning to 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Next week, we're working 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Wow. So
I'm getting about 10 hours of overtime next week.
Yeah.
So I will go and take, $20, $25 and go put it aside for when this thing comes out.
So Top Gun Maverick, I am ranking 5th from the top. I think it's a better movie than the first one, certainly. And as far as recent movies I've seen that have been in the theaters, it's better than Ghostbusters Afterlife, certainly better than No Way Home, and it's better than Sonic 2. So 5th from the top. And ActionCom says, why is Final Frontier so far down? It's nothing against Final Frontier. It's just that everything above it, I happen to like more.
And it's all personal preference.
Exactly. This is all personal preference. This whole thing could change if I see all of these movies again. Like, for example, the Matrix trilogy, way down here, I used to have 3/1, but I saw the movies again and changed it. So things could change here. Phil, of course, had to say hashtag justice for Star Trek V, which means I have to play the clip.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship? I said, what does God need with a starship?
Jim, what are you doing? I'm asking you a question.
But in all seriousness, Phil McCracken says, pray they have no plans for a Top Gun 3. Leave it at this and done. Yes, 100%.
I'll agree with that.
No more Top Gun. Leave it here. This is perfect. Just leave it.
But with the characters that they set up, I could see them doing a spinoff on Rooster's character.
I could see that too. It would have to be good for me to.
I agree, but I can see them doing it because they set him up enough in this movie.
Right.
They could do a spinoff between him and Hangman.
Yes. So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and shut this down for the night. So, number one, thank you, Black Dragon, for coming in and talking about this movie with me. I had fun. And not only did I have fun talking about it with you, I had fun watching this movie.
I agree. It's going to have a different perspective for you and I as opposed to others.
Of course. And as always, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Unfortunately, Phil, it's a little bit too late for a Skyrim stream tonight because I have work in the morning. But we will have one maybe tomorrow. Who knows? But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. And we will talk to you later.
Everybody take it easy and take care.